Ciao, it's Stefania, and welcome to this new episode of Lanivendole's podcast. And this is my first episode alone, so I thought it would be nice to introduce a little bit of myself, as you don't see me so frequently as Julia on our social media and Instagram and so on. But we just decided to divide our tasks, and I was more keen to stay in the background, actually. So it's more likely to see me answering to emails and behind the newsletter and the paper stuff and commercial stuff and wholesales and retailer relationships and so on. Anyway, if I had to describe myself to some newbies to my life, I'd say I'm nearly 45. I live in Genoa, in the northern part of Italy by the sea, with my husband and two boys, 12 and 9. And actually, I do live in the countryside above Genoa, which is been part of my latest 10 years when we decided to move here and to build our own house. This really changed my life and my attitude to what I wanted to do with that. And Lanivendole as well. They just go parallel in that period. And it really describes me as a person, I believe. Because if I have to trace back when I wanted to start a yarn company, I wouldn't say, but actually threads and yarns have always been part of my life. Because my two grandmothers were both seamstresses, and my biggest regret perhaps is I never learned to sew. But it was at the age of a sort of a rebel attitude, and there was no point in that. But actually knitting was. Since the beginning I self-taught most of the techniques. Just my granny just taught me the basis, and then I went on. And I sometimes see spots of memories when I perhaps bought a couple of board yarns or skeins and laid them on my bedside table to touch them and to sneeze them and to look at the colors before falling asleep. That was something really weird that my mother used to look at me like that. But I don't know, I had something with that. There was something between me and wool and yarn already. So when I started to knitting more focusedly and discovered the internet when I was expecting my first child, I think, I saw that there was a real world behind that screen on my PC. So I started to discover new techniques. I went into spinning and hand dyeing and blending, and that was a really turning point. I fell in love. So for I would say something like 10 years I spent researching and trying and experimenting, and then came this association I made with a friend in Genoa to develop textile arts, and it was really enriching to learn to teach and to learn to explain, and it's really self-rewarding activity, I think. That actually gave me the possibility to meet Italian breeders that were growing at the time, and meals and association. That's how I met Julia, as you may have read in our on our website. And that was really a path developing that was getting clearer and clearer each year, and each lesson taking, because I do remember when I was something like a teenager, I started each summer to go to the UK to study English, because my mother worked as a tour operator and she had the possibility to send me and she did, and I must thank her each day for doing so, because apart from learning English, it really helped me to widen my attitude to life and to meet a British world. This was love at first sight. I remember each summer I came home with another jumper of new wool and of different breeds, and from rough to soft to raw, and I kept staring at those heathered blended fabrics, and it was amazing for me. So there was some seeds inside that kept growing. And so now I see the whole scheme, and it really seems that this had to be my path in some certain way. And that's why for this episode I wanted to show you and to talk a bit more with you about our Stormy Blend, because okay, Julia and I love developing new colors, experimenting. It's a very creative and amazing, exciting process to develop new palettes and new techniques and to play with colors, but since the beginning we've strongly wanted to have an undyed yarn, which meant in Italy to have it creamy white because we don't have specific breeds with colored fleece, as talking about wool, of course. So we had the idea to blend it with alpacas that are quite common, as you may have listened to our first episode. And so since the beginning we really wanted to have a natural colored yarn, and we really couldn't decide which color to choose, so we had three, because that's how we work. We just can't cope with strong limiting decisions, I would say. Anyway, we decided to have three main ranges of shade, from the dark gray to the fawn beige, and we just had to experiment a little bit with the meal from the beginning to decide the percentages, the right percentages, not to make it too much colorful, and so to cover the hand-dyed ones, and not to make it too dull and too subtle. So we started, these are ombra, which means shadow in Italian, and it's with black alpaca. That's it. And then we have perla, which is pearl in Italian, and it's a blend of wool and fawn alpaca, light beige. And we have luce, which is a blend of gray and black. I say gray and black with a slight pause because one of the experimentation we wanted to try, when we started, we had the possibility to have gray alpaca, which is quite rare. But the mill we were working with, a very small mill in Piedmont, just raises their own alpacas, and they do have it. That was quite helpful for our task, for our goal, but now that we work with different mills and we need more fleece to make more yarn from compared to the beginnings, we couldn't find it. So at the beginning, luce was made with gray alpaca. Now it's made with a mixture of white and black alpaca, of course, because white and black do yield gray. And now it's quite easier because we found the perfect formula. And we stick to that. But if you follow us since the beginning, you might have seen that the shades slightly change from one batch to another. That's one of the reasons, because sometimes gray was a bit darker, or the percentages of white and black alpaca when we shifted were a bit different, and the fawn can change each year since the yield of the animals. And but that's one of the things I like most of making this kind of yarns, because they're actually real, I would say. And as we change, as the environment changes, it's really grounded to see that also shades of the fleece can change, and yarns. So these are the Stormy Blend in fingering weight. Because when we started, we wanted to make weight of yarn that could be easily worked in different sort of patterns, and different bases that could be mixed and matched easily for different projects. This is our workers, I would say, because it's gorgeous alone, and it's perfect for those color work or stranded projects to balance the more powerful hand dyed that we make. This really has a richness in itself, and it's, I would say, one of my favorites in its simplicity, because the yarn makes it, I'm sorry, the wool makes it, the wool content makes it quite bouncy, and the alpaca gives softness, of course, and that little shine. And it's so warm. Now I'm wearing my Brogna sweater that Covive designed for us last winter, and it was released in last winter actually, and it's made of perla as main color, and ombre and luce for the stripes, and this beautiful sort of embroideries that she thought of. It's so comfortable and so warm and so easy to wear that I I almost wear it something like every day. And we just tried to make another experiment. As you might have understood, we can't stay calm. But we wanted to try with a different weight, and Stormy seemed to be the more versatile to do that. So we tried to have them spun in DK weight. This opens a wide topic for it's not so easy to find meals dealing with different weights and capable to do it in small amounts of yarns to produce, and at the beginning this was quite a problem for us, especially in the testing phase of the process. So we had it in very small quantities spun as a worsted weight, and it was an amazing yarn, really so soft and so smooth in the knitted surface, but that mill couldn't work anymore in those processes because they just made other decisions, and that was so time consuming for them to deal with small quantities and so different shades, so they had to clean the machines after each batch, for example, and that was nonsense for them. So after we released that, we were really worried because we couldn't see how to go on, but we loved that so much that was quite a strike for us. So we kept searching. We found another company that could work only with carded fibers. So we reasoned a bit about it. It was a completely different yarn actually, but you know, carded fibers are more lofty and more likely to retain warmth and to retain water, to isolate from water, and knitted fabrics are so dense and so keeping it their shape. So that could work, of course, and we gave it a try. That's how we got our latest batches of Stormy Blend in DK weight. Apart from the natural colors that are actually the same because we kept the same compositions and dividing the range of fibers and wool, we decided to try to hand dye the darkest gray, and that's how our latest collection from last year was born. And here I have few colorways. I say a few because the other ones are sold out, and the dark gray as well. I don't even have a sample here in my separate department of the company. Anyway, we really love this bulky and bouncy thread, and we now have to find a solution on how to go on with this, because now we wonder, we are at the stage where we should perhaps increase the quantities and increase the colors and make it a stable base in our range, but we have to find energies and time to do that. So we really hope to have it again for next winter. I'm not sure if we will able to, because we do have so many other things to to do and to keep an eye on, and it's only the two of us, as you know. But we are working on it, so let's hope for the best. And let me just spend a little word about the wall content, because I thought I talked a lot of my thoughts and my perceptions about this yarn, but apart from alpaca, the wool content is a single breed, which is Brogna. That's how Rie decided about the name of the pattern as well, of course. Brogna is quite a rare breed that was almost extinguishing in Italy. It comes from the area around Verona, in the northeast, just on bottom of the Alps. And it's in Italy since the Middle Ages, actually, but it was almost completely lost after 1900, I'd say, I think, and just as in most part of the native breeds in Italy. Now, in the last, I would say 25 years, an association of breeders started to repopulate the breeds and working directly with the farms, with local farms, and now they stock a good range of herds. And it's funny because when we started to think of making some more yarn and not to use it only for teaching hand spinning in our lab, they were starting their job. And that's another sign that fits in the puzzle. I think I was talking before, because both Brogna and the other main breed that we use, which is Aquilana from Abruzzo, just were developing their activities of recovering and bettering the fineness of fleece and the yield given by the ships. It was all at the same time when we started, so it was damn luck, I would say, but perhaps also a sign that it was the right path for us. And so just as I was saying, Brogna was contained in almost all our blends when we started, because the amounts that we produced were quite tiny. Now that we are increasing, we had to find different solutions, because they are growing. Brogna Association is making each year bigger quantities of fleece, but they do have to use it themselves. So we decided to keep it only for the Stormies, both in decay and in fingering weights, and to use Aquilana for the Heavenly Blend, and of course for the pure simple wool. And we introduced since last month an Abruzzese wool, which comes almost from the same project of Aquilana. It's just the same farms. They just divide the fleeces into different ranges, and one goes for Aquilana, which is the finest and super one, and the Abruzzese is just in parallel the one after that. So that's what we use for the chic blend, but of course we will talk about this in another episode, and because otherwise I will stick here for an hour and a half. So anyway, I hope to have given you a little more information and of curiosities about myself and this gorgeous yarn, which is a Stormy Blend. And thank you for sticking here till the end. Until next time, ciao.